Welcome back to Universe. I'm Andrew, and today I'm playing Altered TCG. This is a new trading card game that's going to be crowdfunding next week, as this video is supposed to be going up on Kickstarter. You can check a link in the description to the crowdfunding campaign, which will be in some form or another, depending on when you're seeing this. They made available some free demo decks and prototype rules document, so that's what I'm going to be working from. It's not necessarily going to be the final version of the game. Make sure to check out the campaign page or their website or whatever for the most up-to-date information, but I figured we'd try it out, take a look, give you a feeling of how it's played, even if it doesn't end up being exactly like the final product. The art and graphic design on this one are great, and I gotta say, what drew me to this game in particular, I will say I haven't decided whether or not I'll back it, but what got my interest in the first place is their unique handling of collections and cards, and that is that players' collections will primarily be digital. You'll buy physical product, but then by scanning these unique QR codes, you'll add those cards to your digital collection. And if you ever lose the card, you can have it reprinted at small cost from the company, maybe like $1 per card. Again, check their pages for information on that. You can also open like foil coupons and booster packs that allow you to get any card printed as a foil. So if you have your favorite card, but you want a foil version of it, you can just have it made as long as that card is in your collection. Many cards will not be unique necessarily. Your copy of it will be unique, but not the card specifically. But some cards actually will be unique, which would be interesting to see what those end up being. As in one of one, only one person has this particular card, and for the purposes of digital official ownership, only one person will be able to have it, but they could print a bunch of them and then give them out or sell them or something, and then it's just for like tournament play and things, only the official owner would be able to use it. You can transfer that digital ownership and whatnot. Anyway, this is the kind of thing that got me interested. If you want to know more about that kind of thing, check out their information again. But for now, for this video, we're just going to be playing through and see how the flow works. So there are 6 factions in the game, 6 colors, and this is the pink one called Lyra. I'll probably call it pink, or I might accidentally call it purple. I think purple might be a different one. I don't know. These are the 2 that appealed to me. I've got green over here, Muna. And these 2 cards that are already out on the table are the hero cards that you start with in play. They also have 2 reserve slots and 2 permanent slots. So we might see that come up. But it's interesting to see that they've got that printed on the hero. So different heroes can have different slots. And in the middle of the board, we have the map that the characters need to traverse. And the first player whose 2 characters meet somewhere in the middle will win the game. So one thing I will definitely say when you're thinking about getting into this game is take a look at what kind of tokens it comes with. I'm going to be having to improvise my own tokens here. I need tokens to mark the hero. So I'm going to put a 6 over here for the Lyra hero and a 1 over here for the Lyra companion. And then I'll use green dice for Muna. And the hero and companion basically have no difference other than they start on opposite sides of the map. As you play over the course of the rounds, they can move toward each other, and when your 2 characters meet somewhere, you are the winner. So it is a race game, and these middle spaces are kind of in a fog of war. We'll see them as we start to play. But yeah, there are other types of tokens in the game in addition to just these hero and companion markers. There are boosts and fleeting and anchored that you'll have to keep track of. So if you're the type of person who likes fancier tokens, definitely take a look at the campaign page for what the options are. I assume they'll have some cool stuff there. And if you're the type of person who doesn't like tokens and tracking stuff on cards, this might not be the game for you, at least based on my demo experience. So I'm gonna actually get started. Each player will draw 6 cards. I'm gonna have the Lyra player going first on my side of the board. And we're gonna get an opening hand of 6 cards, and 3 cards will immediately place down as mana orbs. And I'm not very experienced. I've only played it one time before, so don't trust my strategy here. But the cards I'm going to choose to place as mana orbs are Cloth Cocoon, because I have a second one. Tempted to keep both or to get rid of both, but I am going to make 1 and 2 mana orb, also 1 copy of All In, and then a Lyra Cloth Dancer. So I'm just going to put those cards face down. These are going to be my mana orbs that I can use to pay for cards later. And we'll do the same thing for Tija and Nara. This would be normally another player doing this, but it's me by myself here, so I'll play both sides. You'll notice I've got this, just another side tangent about the game. We've got a common version of the Daughter of Yggdrasil, and then this rare version of Daughter of Yggdrasil, slightly different art, and also slightly different effect. This rare version says each player draws a card. The common version says each opponent draws a card. So slightly different versions of so many of the cards at different rarities and potentially even in different colors. I think we'll make orbs out of the meditation training, one of the common Daughter of Yggdrasil. Actually drew 3 total of those. And you know what? I'm going to do the other daughter as well, the common one. So that will be the initial setup. Like I said, I'm going to have Lyra go first. I'm actually going to give her a first player marker, another token you'll need to keep track of. And let's take a look at the round tracker. So during the dawn phase, we kind of skip that during the first turn. That's kind of how we start a round. But here during the normal set of the game, we basically skip that dawn phase. We're going to the day phase, playing successive turns. You get to do 1 action plus some number of free actions. The action would be to play a card from your hand or for reserve or pass, which would mean you can't do any more stuff for the rest of this day, the round. So with Nevenka and Blotch, Lyra going first. Let's see what action she wants to take. And I think I'm actually going to change my mana orbs already. I'm going to swap out Lyra, Cloth Dancer, and Esmeralda. I'm cheating a little bit to hopefully make for a better game because I forgot that we've got 3 orbs to start out with. So I can play this 3-cost card right now. So the top left blue circled number is 3. That is the hand cost to play this card. So I'm going to exhaust 3 mana orbs to pay for that 3 cost. And I get to put that card into play. Lyra, Cloth Dancer. The 2 right next to it in pink is if I were playing it from my reserve, which we'll see later. So now I can decide to put Lyra over here or over here. Right now, it doesn't matter. If I play her over here, she will be on an expedition to help my hero move. And if I play her over here, she'll instead be on an expedition to help my companion move. Again, they are basically identical, so doesn't really make a difference. I'll just put it on the left. So we'll put Lyra here helping out my hero expedition. And now she is committing 1 toward forest, 1 toward mountain, and 1 toward water. And for convenience sake, I think I will track that with some dice. So these are not tokens that are required. I don't know if these will be made available in any way, but I think they'll be a little bit convenient to have because the more characters you play to an expedition, the more you'll have to kind of be keeping track of these, especially compared to what your opponent has. Now, the Lyra, Cloth Dancer also has an ability, that hand with an arrow. You can see on this tip card means that when I'm played from your hand, and we did just play her from our hand, but we'd have to choose another character to become fleeting, and there isn't one. So I think we'll skip that and just put it out. Again, strategically, probably not the best, but we'll just see how it goes. Now, the Lyra player has done a full action, and that means their turn is over. You could do free action still, but we're not going to. So it is the Muna hero's turn, Tija and Nara. So they say the first character you play each day gains a boost. Boosts are +1/+1/+1 counters, so those add to the forest, mountain, and water stats. And that is each day, so day being a full round. And I think they'd like to play this rare Daughter of Yggdrasil. It's going to cost 3 because that's the big blue circled number. They'll exhaust 3 mana orbs to pay that cost. And again, they can play it over here or over there. And this Lyra, Cloth Dancer is kind of weak, so I think they'll contest on the hero side. And we'll see what I mean by contesting once we finish the day phase and move on to the dusk phase. But that's going to give the green player a 3, 5, and 5. And then that played from hand gift. Each player draws a card, so each player will get 1 more card to hand as the Daughter of Yggdrasil comes into play. That finishes their turn, so Lyra gets to go again. But they've spent all their mana orbs, so all they have left to do is to use this hero ability, which says to exhaust Nevenka and Blotch, a little exhaust symbol there. Target an allied character, which at this point would have to be the Lyra, Cloth Dancer, and then roll a die, which in this game means a 6-sided die. On a 6, it becomes anchored. On a 1, it goes to the reserve, which would be bad, and otherwise it gains 1 boost. So 2/3 of the time it will get boosted. Well, we're already losing this little expedition, so we may as well give it a shot. Let's roll a 6-sided die. Got a 4, which is neither a 6 nor a 1, so they'll get 1 boost, which I guess I'll mark with this die, but the effect of that is to raise these numbers up to 2, 2, and 4. Now they did a thing, but it was a free action. They have to do a normal main action, and they can't play a card, so they're gonna have to choose the main action of pass, which means it will go back to the green player, who can then take as many actions as they want because they don't have anybody else to wait for taking a turn. That said, the green player has nothing left to do, and in fact, I did forget, right after I said it, to put the boost on. So this Daughter of Yggdrasil should actually have a boost, and so this numbers over here should be 4, 6, and 6. And then we can move on to the Dusk phase once both players have passed. It says to compare stats for each expedition. The expeditions would be for each player, their hero side and their companion side. And if you win an expedition for a particular region type that matters to you, you get to advance. So let's take a look at what exactly that means, because this is the part where things do kind of get complicated. Until you wrap your head around it. So this is the starting location for the hero side, and this companion side is, again, basically the same thing. We can look at it vertically just so it fits on my camera. But you can see there are 3 symbols down at the bottom, and on all the locations currently, they are symmetrical. So whatever is on one side is also on the other side, but they're printed in both ways, oriented to each player, just for convenience sake, I suppose. In this case, it is forest, mountain, and water. The other locations have only 1 or 2 of those symbols. It's just the starting locations have all 3 symbols. So we'll keep that in mind for the future. But for now, what that means is either side can advance if they have a higher stat in any of those 3 stats than the opposing expedition. Now in this case, the green player has a higher stat in all 3, which means they are the winner and they'll get to advance their hero. But for the case, or for the sake of example, let's say that the Daughter of Yggdrasil has 4 in forest, but somehow the Lyra hero actually had a 5 in forest. So in this case, Muna would be winning on mountain and water, but not in forest. And because any of the 3 stats can be used to win at this particular location, the Lyra hero could advance because they won the forest, and the Muna hero could advance because they won the mountain and water, or mountain or water, or either one. So both sides can win on a given expedition, just depending on what type of terrain they're at. But as it stands, Lyra did not win forest. Only Muna was a winner, and so only they will advance. So the heroes started there, and the Muna hero gets to move to here, which means we need to actually reveal this card. Because as I said, these are hidden in Fog of War, but we do need to see what they are as we enter them. I do have a slight concern about how this will be implemented. Because this is a print and play, I put these in top loaders, but the top loaders have a very clear bottom and top. And even normal card sleeves has a very clear bottom and top opening. And on the other side of these locations, the top or bottom actually matters, because one side is a certain type of terrain, this side being water, and this side being forest or mountain. So if players sleeve these cards, which players are inclined to do, sleeving their cards, some players will have an advantage by being able to identify, if you set up the board at the beginning of the game randomly without players supposed to know what they are, but some people will be able to tell anyway, especially once 1 or 2 of them get revealed. So that is a slight concern I have. If they do like thick cardboard tiles that players are not inclined to sleeve, that would change things, but we'll see if that's the case. My solution is to kind of put them out at the beginning of the game for aesthetic purposes, but when you actually are going to go to one of those locations, let's look at them all and just roll a die to determine which one you arrive at. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 to see which one the Muna hero is now entering, and then that will be locked in. And next time we need to resolve a Fog of War, we'll roll again. I'll roll that die. I got a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're going to enter this mountain terrain, and I'm going to put it like that. And then to show that these 2 have not been determined yet, I'll put them back to Fog of War, even though their positions are not locked in yet for my house rule. So the Muna hero is now there. They've advanced once toward meeting up with their companion. I should have exhausted the Lyra hero when she used her ability, but now that we've resolved our Dusk phase, we're going into the night phase. All the characters in play go from their respective expedition zones to their respective reserves. And the reserve is off to the side. So we're going to take them out of play. They're going to lose their boosts. And if you happen to have more than 2 cards down here, which doesn't happen often, but it can happen, especially if you're careful you can avoid it. But if you have more than 2 cards in your reserve, you'd have to get rid of all but 2. Clear these out. And we'll go into the next day phase where the first player will pass to the other player. All cards will ready, including mana orbs. Each player will draw 2 cards. And then in first player order, now starting with Muna, you can choose whether to add another card to your mana orbs. It is recommended that you do so until you've got at least 7 or 8 mana orbs. I think the green player will choose that one. And the pink player will choose this one. And then going into the day phase, again, we'll start with green to do an action. And I think they're going to spend 2 mana orbs in order to play a rare Sneezer Shroom. Cost 2, that's the blue value for playing it from hand. They already won on this side, so they'll try to push that. Sure, why not? They know they need to, things change slightly because now they know in order to advance, they need specifically a mountain. They have to win with mountains. They can win with water and force all they want, but that will not let them advance. It would only potentially prevent their opponent from advancing. So to actually advance again, they need to win with mountain, but Sneezer Shroom does have a mountain stat, so they're fine with that, and they're going to put that out. And because the green hero says their first character each round has a boost, so that Sneezer Shroom is going to be 2s down the line. Put that out here and get a 2, 2, and 2. I think Lyra's going to try to contest that same side again, the same expedition. They're going to play Hathor, and he's going to cost 2 from hand. Now, if we play him later from reserve, which we haven't seen yet, but we will, he'll cost 3. But for now, he costs 2. He's got a 0 in forest, but a 3 mountain and 3 water. So we'll put those stats out on the table. And that's all he's going to do for now. Get a big old blank text box. But that means Lyra is winning on 2 of those 3 stats, including the one that Muna needs. That puts it back to them, and they're going to spend their other 2 mana orbs for the day on Mowgli. And he costs 2, and he's got 2s down the line, so let's make it 4, 4, and 4. So put him out on the same side. Again, we could be playing to the other side, but we're fighting over this side right now. And the Lyra here doesn't have any more cards with a hand cost of 2 or less. So they can't actually afford to play any of these cards for now. But they do have this Lyra Cloth Dancer in their reserve from last turn, and it has that reserve cost of 2. So they will pay 2 to put that out. And yeah, let's go ahead. Let's just keep the fight going. We're going to put it here, giving us 1 forest, up to 4 mountain, and the water jumps up to 6. Now it has an ability that hand, played from hand, another target character becomes fleeting, but we didn't play it from hand, we played it from reserve, so that ability does not take effect. And we'll just put it out. Now, because I played a character from reserve, though, it gets this new special condition that we'll have to track with a token called fleeting. And that means this time, when it leaves play at the end of the day, during the night phase, it will not go back to the reserve. She'll be done. So you can only play something from the reserve once, and then it's gone. And that is what her ability would inflict on somebody else. You could give them fleeting even though they weren't necessarily played from reserve. For example, she could have given this Mowgli fleeting, and then it wouldn't go to the reserve. It would have to skip ever going to the reserve and just leave play. But she wasn't played from hand, so we can't do that. The Muna player will pass because they're out of actions to do, and the Lyra hero has to decide whether to use this ability. You can exhaust Navenka and Blotch to target an allied character, roll a die, but on a 1, it'd be sent to reserve, which is not good, because then our stats would go down and we'd lose this. Currently, we are losing in forest, but that's fine, because our opponent cannot advance with forest. We're winning on water, which means we get to advance, and it's a tie on mountain, which means our opponent cannot advance, because they would have to win it to move on. So the way the stats are now, we can advance and they cannot. So we don't want to mess with that. We're a little bit dangerous. We don't need the boost because we're already have the optimal outcome, and risking that 1 and sending one of our characters to reserve is bad. Now on a 6, one of our characters become anchored, which is what the Sneezer Shroom got. Actually, I forgot to mark that one. So we'll mark that it is anchored, which means during the night phase, it will not go to reserve. It actually gets to hang out in this expedition into the next day. And we could apply that to one of our characters if we roll a 6, but I don't know if that's worth the risk. So I'm not going to do it. Let's just go ahead and pass the way the Muna player did and go into the night phase, which means we compare stats. And then it's like I said, because we are in this location, our hero is still lingering back here. We can win with any of the 3 stats. And if we win any of the 3 stats, we get to advance. We are winning with one of the 3 stats, which is water, 6/4, so we will get to advance. Our opponent is in the mountain. I mean, we just moved into the mountain, but they were already in the mountain, and so they can only advance if they win mountain, and they are not winning mountain because it's 4 versus 4. They do not get to advance. That is the outcome. And now this fleeting character will move to my discard pile. This character goes to my reserve. This character goes to their reserve, and this character is anchored, so they just lose the anchored status and stay in place. Clear these out of the way. Pass first player. Actually, these can stay out because Sneezer Shroom is still there. Everybody gets to ready. Draw 2, play an orb. Draw 2, play an orb. Now we've got 5 orbs. We've evened things up. Now we both need a mountain to advance on this side or anything to advance on this side, but the Muna player is coming into the day with an advantage of the Sneezer Shroom. And I think we're going to pay a big 4 for one guy here, the Hatter. He's going to have 5 in Force and 5 in Mountain, and I'm a little afraid my opponent will be able to match or beat that. If we play into this side, only the Mountain matters. Our opponent can probably play at least a 3 to block us, if not 4 to overcome it. In fact, we can see they have the Daughter of Yggdrasil in their reserve. They could easily play her for 3, and that'll give them a 5, which would be higher. That said, they could just match us if we play on this side as well, so this might not be a great play. You know what? I'm going to make a bad move. I don't know if it's bad. I feel like that would be bad, so I'm going to do something different that also feels bad, which is to play the Ouroboros Lyra Bastion. Costs 3, and this is a new type of card, is a permanent. So this card is going to come into play and permanently stay in play. And at the beginning I showed you on the heroes they have 2 reserve and 2 permanent slots. We've seen how the reserve works a bit. This is a permanent, so I can have 2 permanents out because my hero has the 2 permanents allowed symbols, and this is going to be modifying us for the rest of the game, which is if I should roll a die, roll an additional 1 and ignore 1. So when I use her ability, I get to roll twice and choose the one I want. So unfortunately, with 2 more mana orbs, I'm actually not going to be able to do anything else this round. Not that my opponent necessarily knows that yet, but since I didn't have any good moves, I'm just going to bring this out to help me later on in the game, and I'll put my permanent down over here. And the Muna player feels pretty good about that. They don't know if I have a character to play for 2, but they're already winning this side. And they've got people in their reserve, so they're going to spend just 2 to bring out Mowgli, and they'll play him over to here, giving them 3, 3, and 3 because he's their first character this round and therefore gets a boost. And now they've got stats on both sides, which we haven't seen yet. That was their action, so they'll pass. And then the Lyra player, we have to pass because we have nothing to do with 2. We can't even use our ability because it has to target an allied character, and we don't have an allied character. So the Muna player's thrilled. They have no reason to commit anything else. Should mark Mowgli as fleeting since he was played from reserve. Oh, and I totally forgot about the Sneezer Shroom's ability, which was at the start of the day. Normally, characters aren't in play at the start of the day, but because he was anchored, he was, and it says at dawn, I gain a boost. So it should actually have gone up to 2, bringing these all up to 3s. So making it even harder for the Lyra player to contest anything this round. So Muna will pass, and we'll go ahead and go to the Dusk. They definitely win on Mountain with 3 versus nothing, and they get to advance. Now they will need to advance again with Water or Forest. And then on this side, they win all 3. They could have won with any of the 3, so they will advance into the Fog. So let's roll to resolve which one. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, or 4. I'll re-roll a 5 or a 6. 3 is going to be this one here, so I'll just do that. And that die roll is, again, because of my house rule, so it's not modified by the Ouroboros in any way. So they advance here, and this new space needs Forest or Mountain, and then leads into a water space, which means we know that the remaining one is going to have a single forest and then a mountain water, but we don't know which side will be which. We'll resolve that once we flip. And that's the main problem I was talking about, because you can see which side has the open sleeve. So if you know which way you sleeved it and you had placed this at the beginning of the game, you would know which one is going to flip out, and you could plan ahead accordingly. Not a huge deal necessarily, but it could be depending on different card effects or strategies. All right, so the Sneasel Shroom is no longer anchored, so it will move to reserve and lose its boosts. And Mowgli was fleeting, so he will go to the discard pile. Clear these, pass first player, ready the orbs, draw 2, play an orb, draw 2, play an orb, and get started. And now you can see Muna is way ahead. They've advanced a total of 1, 2, 3 times, and Lyra has advanced only once. Again, once these two characters meet anywhere, they'll be the winner. So now one thing the Muna player is thinking is they have 2 characters in their reserve, so if they play anything from a hand that doesn't automatically anchor itself, which the green faction does have access to a good amount. We already saw it once on the Sneasel Shroom. But if it's anything that doesn't anchor itself immediately, it will go to the reserve, and they'll only be able to keep 2 cards from reserve. So they may want to focus on playing these cards before playing more cards from their hand and then losing access to some of those reserve slots. But they do have 2 pretty good rare cards there. The Doctor of Yggdrasil is kind of waiting to jump out and throw a 5 down on mountain or water. So it's very looming there. Got 6 mana orbs to work with, and I think they'll just do the Sneasel Shroom. So again, this enters playability. That arrow doesn't have a hand, so it's just that top one when I'm played from anywhere, so it will get anchored again. And because of Tija and Nara's ability, it will get a boost again, and they're going to put it on this side because it is providing some mountain stats, and the mountain is the stat the Lyra player will need to advance, so they're going to fight them on mountain, 2, 2, and 2. And they have to pay 2 for that. And we're going to gamble slightly, but less now that we have the Bastion. We're going to play Ouroboros Trickster. This is the rare variant. It has a cost of 2 and then 2 again from reserve, and has stats of 0 down the line, which doesn't seem great. But when it enters play, we'll roll a die. On a 4 or more, she gets 3 boosts. 3 or less, she'll get 1. But because of the Bastion, I get to roll twice. So let's give it a shot. I'm going to play it over to here. Got to commit that first. 3 is not good, but I get another shot, and that's a 5, so we'll keep the 5, give her 3 boosts. So we're going to have 3, 3, and 3, and we're going to be beating that Sneasel Shroom. Pay 2, of course. Now, the Muna player can fight for this side, but they're fighting a slightly losing battle, because they're already down 1, and they got the same number of mana remaining for the round. And one of their cards they have is Inari, which only has a 1 in Mountain, and Mountain is the stat that Lyra needs. Now, Muna can advance by winning either of the other 2 stats, but Lyra would also advance, and because their advantage would be more marginal on this expedition, they're thinking they're going to play to this expedition, so even though Lyra will get this side, they'll have a more likely chance of getting an advancement on one of the 2 sides. So they're going to pay 3 for the Inari, and put it over here, giving them 3, 1, and 3 on that side, and they can win with forest or mountain over here. Well, now we're wondering if we can win both sides as Lyra, because I have the Hatter. So for 4, I can put that and contest the Inari's expedition with 5 and 5, and then a 0 in water, which the Muna hero cannot benefit from. Our deficit there on the water. So because of their position on this space here, 5 and 5 will let us win this side as well, but we spent all our mana, and the Muna player has 1 left, but they're going to pass. They don't really have a good option. They cannot win either of these, so they're going to pass. I should have marked the 3 boosts that the Trickster got with her ability, but I just marked it with these anyway. And now I'm wondering, how crazy are we? We can use this ability. Now, I didn't want to use it before because I risked sending one of my characters to the reserve on a 1. But now with the Bastion, I get 2 rolls. It's only a 1 in 36 chance that I roll a 1 twice, or it's almost like a 1 in 3 chance that I'll get a 6, which would let me anchor somebody, which would be great because I'm about to have 3 cards in my reserve and I'll only be able to keep 2 of them. So even though I'm winning, I'm going to risk losing one of my characters. Again, only 1 in 36 because of the Ouroboros Bastion, but I want to see if I can anchor one of them. And I think I got to choose the Hatter because of the big 5s there. So let's go ahead and use this, and I'm going to choose the Hatter. I'd like a 6 and definitely not double 1s. A 3 is fine, and a 3. So we did not get a 6, which means we'll have to choose a 3 to keep, which means it gets a boost. So sure, I'll put the boost here, raise the stats up, but it's not gonna matter at all because we're already winning. So on this side, Muna needs water or forest, and they have 2 or 2 versus 3 or 3, so they lose both. And Lyra needs mountain. They have 3 over 2, so they get to advance. And then on this side, Muna is winning in water with a 3 over a 1, but losing the other 2 stats, and they needed either of the other 2 to win. Water will not cut it, but Lyra does get to advance, and they've evened things up. Clear these. But like I said, now they lose their boosts, and they're going to have 3 characters going to reserve, and they're only going to be able to keep 2 of them. So we'll lose the Hathor to the discard pile. Ready that and the orbs. Sneaser Shroom is no longer anchored. Inari goes to reserve. Ready their orbs. Pass first player. Draw 2. I think we'll actually not play a mana orb this turn, which is not recommended by the rules, but I'm gonna keep 6 for now. Muna will draw 2, and they will play an orb. Sneaser Shroom gets a boost at the start of the day. They're actually kicking things off with 3s here. And I think I'm gonna play the Lyra Chronicler for 3 on this side here. It's got 4 in forest and water and 0 in mountain, but both sides are on this forest water space, so mountains are irrelevant on the hero side of the expedition. So with the 4 and 0, 4, we're going to be good. So now we're beating the Muna player on the stats that matter. And I think they will bring the Inari out of their reserve because it also has those same relevant stats. So pay 2 for the reserve cost there. It's going to be 3, 1, 3, bringing up to 6, 4, 6. Again, the 4 doesn't really matter here on this side of the table, but the 6s definitely do. That will be fleeting, and it was their first character, so it's actually going to have a boost as well, making it a 7, 5, 7. The Lyra players going all in on the hero expedition with the common spell all in. I think this is the first spell we've seen. This is a card type where you pay the cost, play the card, get the effect, and it then goes to your reserve. So you can actually play it again. And we don't resolve our limit in the reserve until the end of the round. So we can actually have 3 reserve cards for now until we get to the dusk phase. Although we are going to be paying 3 mana orbs, so we're not going to have much in the way of ability to get anything out of reserve. Actually, we do have one thing we can do, which we might see at the bottom of the Hatter here is effect. But we'll see that if we come to it. For now, we're going to resolve this spell, targeting a character, rolling a die, and gaining X boosts. And again, Ouroboros, Lyra Bastion, we're going to roll twice and choose the one we want. A 1, probably not going to choose that. 3 is not good. But, wow, it's really not good. I was hoping for something better off 2 rolls. But that's actually just going to tie us up 7 and 7, and then just the irrelevant 3 in the middle. That is a bummer, because that was not what we were hoping for. Average of a d6 is 3.5. Obviously, you can't roll a 3.5, but you can expect to get about 3.5, especially off a pair of rolls. Minimum of 4 would have been nice. Well, maybe Lyra shouldn't have played to the side where Tija and Nara started out with a 3/3/3 Sneaser Shroom, because now they've got 5 more mana to spend, which means nobody's winning this side because of the ties on the relevant stats. 7 versus 7 and 7 versus 7. And they can clearly see this ability is very likely to be able to give 1 more boost to break that tie. But they don't want to tie anyway. They want to win. And they've got 5 mana to do it with. So they're going to play Nurture. It's going to cost them 2. And choose 2 characters to each gain a boost. Inari goes up to 2 boosts. Sneaser Shroom goes up to 3 boosts. I think the Sneaser Shroom should be fleeting as well, right? Because it was played from reserve. I know it was like a round ago, but it had anchored to keep it from leaving play. But it should be fleeting, so when it does leave play, it will not go to reserve. But that's 2 more on each side, bringing it up to 9, 7, and 9. Some big numbers. And then this will go to reserve. And Lyra is out of mana, so they're going to lose. The best they can do is buff up a little bit. So they're going to still use this ability. Let's see what options we get. 1 or 4, so that'll add 1 more boost, raise these numbers up to irrelevant numbers for now, because that was a free action. We're also going to do this free action, and we're going to look at the bottom of this card like I was alluding to before. At the bottom there, that little X in the card symbol means we can discard this from our reserve in order to perform that effect as a free action. That effect is Target a character with a hand cost of 3 or less, which Lyra Chronicler does have, and it becomes anchored. So now the Lyra Chronicler is anchored, and her giant stats are going to last into the next round. So even though we're losing for now, Sneezer Shroom and Inari will be gone, and we'll have a big advantage on the following day. The Hatter goes to the discard pile. The Lyra player got their reserve count down to 2 by making good use of that Hatter. And now Muna actually still has 3 more mana. And I think they're going to spend that to play the Daughter of Yggdrasil from reserve. So that'll be fleeting, but that's going to put him, give them 5s. I'm actually out of blue dice nearby, but fortunately water doesn't matter at this location anyway. And I think that will end the round. We'll go into Dusk. Muna crushes it on both sides, so they'll advance here into the water. And then we'll do 1 through 3, 4 through 6 rolling to see how that card resolves. 6 is here, so I'll do that as they move into the forest here. So we got a forest and then a water or mountain over here. Ready, we'll pass first player. We'll clear out all these stats except for this side because these all stay thanks to this giant Lyra Chronicler who is no longer anchored but was. And then these 3 were all fleeting, so they are finally off the table. The Lyra player can sigh in relief. Ready the orbs as well. And the Muna player is now 2 away from winning. They can move 1, 2. They can move 1, 2. Or they could move 1, 2. Any of those would win them the game. Whereas the Lyra player has 1, 2, 3, 4 more steps. Falling behind. So Muna will draw 2. And I think they will not play. Actually, no, they do want to play an orb again. Yeah, they'll play this one here as an orb. Lyra will draw 2. I think they will play an orb this time. All right, so now the Muna player, they're first. They have to decide, do they want to try to beat this? Or just let this side ride and commit to their companion expedition this round. They need to win on water, and they're contesting the opponent's forest and mountain. I think they're just going to leave this side alone, and they're going to go ahead and play a giant coniferal cone man to the companion expedition. So that's going to cost them 5 of their 8 mana orbs. It's got 3s down the line, which aren't the biggest, but it does anchor itself, so it's going to apply to this round and next. So we'll give that guy an anchor and a boost from Teja and Nara's ability. 1 boost makes them 4s. So if we want to be able to block them and advance on this side, as the Lyra player, we need to win water and something else. Fortunately, the Muna player is in the forest, so there's no mountain. They can't advance with mountain because that's our weak stat right now. So we do feel pretty safe here. They could be baiting us. They could have just like some surprise card that's going to come out for like 3 mana that's going to have a 9 in forest or water, but that seems very unlikely. And again, we're not scared about mountain because they cannot advance from mountain. I think we'll go with the Ouroboros Trickster again. We'll play her from reserve, and her ability was to roll a die. On a 4 or more, she gets 3 boosts. So let's roll twice. A 3 won't do it. A 6 will. So she gets a 3, 3, 3, 3. Those are not winning stats, but we spent a lot less mana than our opponent did. So we can still commit more later. Now, if they have to decide what to do with their 3 mana. But I think they do want to try to lock it up with some strong numbers. So they'll play Mowgli for 2. And that's going to put them up to all 6s over here. She should be fleeting. So I think my options here, I can play Lyra Chronicler, but she has, well, she'd be 4s. So we go up to 7s. But we know we can see the Nurture in their reserve, and they've got the 1 mana needed to play its reserve cost. So they can put 2 boosts out, and that'll raise them up to all 8s. So we don't need to beat 6s, we need to beat 8s. And the Lyra Chronicler would put us up to 7s. With this ability, we could presumably get up to 8s, but that would just be a tie. We need to beat 8s. And this would cost 3 of our mana. We've got 5. We do have Esmeralda, but she has a 0 in water, which means we wouldn't actually be able to block them. We could win on forest. Can't win on mountain because Lyra Chronicler doesn't have a mountain stat. But we could win on forest, which would let us advance. But we cannot win on water in order to prevent them. And they're so close to winning, we do need to prevent them from advancing, I think. So playing these 2 cards, it's not really going to cut it. Our other card costs 6. So I'm going to play all in from the reserve, paying 3. And I'm going to choose the Ouroboros Trickster. I'm going to put some more boosts on it. Hopefully 6. Because if we roll a 6 on one of these 2 dice, or even a 5 with this ability afterward, that'll put us to 9s, which will beat the 8s. So let's see. Got a 6. All right, I'm not even going to roll again. We'll just take the 6, putting us up to all 9s, which is nice. And then this is discarded. I'm out of dice here. I got some more little guys. We'll do 6 more here and 6 more there. We still have 2 mana left, and we haven't used her yet. And now they do just have the 1 mana. They have the Nurture that we can see. Putting up to 8s would be wasted because they can't beat 9s. So the question is, do they even play it? But because the Coniferal Cone Man is anchored, it might make sense to buff his stats up a little bit more. Or would that Nurture be better in the next round? I think they're thinking they might be able to make better use of the mana if they spend this mana now. They want to spend mana while they've got it. And they'll settle for half the effect of Nurture because they'll get to use the mana next round. So hopefully that plan pays out. But they are going to play the Nurture. Again, reserve cost of 1. So they're playing it from reserve. And these both characters gain boosts. Mowgli has 1 and the Cone Man has 2 now, which put these up to 8s. Again, I'm out of dice, so we'll just remember that 8s do not beat 9s, which means Lyra gets to advance their hero and their companion. And again, they've tied things up. Although, sorry, I didn't actually want to end the round there. Let's back up. That was the action for Muna, but it goes back to Lyra's turn. They've got 2 more mana, and they're going to use that ability. They're going to try to anchor the Trickster. If we roll a 6 on 2 chances, we can anchor the Trickster. She is fleeting, but she can be anchored too, based on my understanding of the rules. So if she would go to reserve, she'd leave play, but anchor would prevent her from going to reserve in the first place. So we're looking for a 6, otherwise we don't get it. That is a 6. So we get to anchor her, and anger our opponent, because that is 9s down the line that are going to be staying on our side of the table. And there's no point playing Esmeralda, because they'll just go to reserve. We're wasting our mana, but we don't need the stats. The only reason I'm thinking about it is the resupply ability. We'll put a card into our reserve. I've got a lot of mana's worth of stuff to play anyway with this 6 cost Asmodeus. So I'm not too worried about giving up this card that I might not necessarily spend the mana on anyway. And we're getting so close to the end of the game that having 1 more card in my reserve might just give me the extra option I need of what to spend my mana on. So that's what's going through my head. Just to be weird, I'm going to do it. So we're just going to play her. It doesn't matter where. I'm going to pay 2 to put her out, and I'm going to do that resupply ability to put this into reserve. And it's actually the other Esmeralda, the rare version. She has resupply no matter where you played her from, rather than just playing when you play her from hand. So that's fine. So she'll go to the reserve, and then we'll go ahead and end. So the Lyra Chronicler and this Esmeralda go to reserve. So we're going to have to discard 1. We'll discard the one we just played, the common one. The Trickster is anchored, so she gets to stay, leaving these 9s out. I'll fix the dice so we can keep the nice chunky ones on the table. And then Mowgli will go to reserve. The anchor will come off the Cone Man. Of course, these both advanced past first player. Ready the mana orbs. And it's coming down to the wire. We've done a lot of turns where one side won both, and then they just kind of take turns. Both people win one side. If that happens again this round, that'll be the end of the game. Lyra will draw 2, and I think we will play 2 orbs. Muna will draw 2, play an orb. Oh, the Cone Man stats are out too. He's got 5s. 5s compared to the 9s. Not bad. Not winning, but not awful. So here on the hero side, the heroes are both on forests. They just need forest. Forest is the only stat that matters. And I think they'll start with a light opening by playing Esmeralda from reserve. So she'll be fleeting. She costs 2, and she resupplies from hand or for wherever she's played from. So we will add another card here, another Hathor. Not a great card from reserve. But that's going to give us 2s. Although, again, force is the only thing that matters. So I'm not even going to put the other out. She's got a 0 water anyway. Incidentally, water is the only stat that matters on this side. So I could even clear out all of this. Do they fight for this or just fight for this? Well, they don't want to just give this up and let Lyra win with a 2. I think they'll play Mowgli over to here for 2. He will get a boost, which means they've got a 3, and he's fleeting. This is a bit risky for Lyra because they have a commanding lead over here. They've got a 4 over their opponent. Muna will need 4 more water just to tie, 5 if they want to advance. So I don't really want to have to commit anything else to this side, but they've got 7 mana open. So if I spend all my mana on this side, there's a reasonable chance they could overtake us with that 7 mana. Which sucks because 2 of the 3 cards, maybe that's my mistake, but 2 of the 3 cards in my hand are Asmodeus. One of them is the normal common version, which costs 6. Also the rare version, which costs 5. But I wouldn't have anything to do with my remaining 1 mana anyway. So if I play one, I may as well play the 6 cost, which means I'm committing to one side or the other. I could basically slam him down over here, probably lock it up. I could go to try to get those 3 boosts. There's a chance that he'd get anchored. I mean, with 2 rolls, 1 through 3 is boosts, 4 through 6 is anchored. If I roll 4 through 6 twice, I get stuck with the anchor. I mean, anchor is great, but at this point, I just want to win. But even just 5s are good. 5 would put me up to 7, and then our opponent would be behind on both sides. They could probably pull ahead on one side, but not the other. If I get the 3 boosts, yeah, I don't know. Maybe anchored is better. But, so that's what I'm thinking. I might want to commit smaller things rather than bigger things. For example, what I'm probably going to do, less flashy, less exciting, but if I play Lyra Chronicler from reserve to this side, that'll raise my forest up to 6. They will have to contest that, and I will still have more mana left to play another Lyra Chronicler or the Hathor from my reserve. Fortunately, the Lyra Chronicler's 2 stats are the 2 relevant stats. So I'm going to play that to here, give that fleeting, pay 3. Now, what does Muna want to do? Because this goes to 6. Well, now they're behind on this side by 3, and they're behind on this side by 4. So it makes more sense to go onto this side. Although they can see the Hathor that is in the Lyra player's reserve, and they can see that the Hathor cannot improve the forest anymore. So there is a chance that if the Lyra player doesn't have anything else in hand that they can play that would increase forest, they might not have the ability to supplement this side anymore, which makes it even more enticing. So yeah, not only is there a chance that they are locking it in based on what is in the Lyra player's hand, but it's a smaller gap that they can close and try to maintain. So they're going to play this another Coniferal Cone Man. This one costs 5. It's going to bring them up to 6 in forest. This guy's going to be anchored. Probably is going to be another round, so that will be useful. And now it's a tie, though Muna has some more mana to spend. But now, Lyra player, I'm feeling very safe on this water side. So if I can just get this 6 up to like an 8, for example, I do have 3 more mana, and I do have the other Lyra Chronicler in my hand. So the Hathor can stay in reserve. I'll pay 3 for this, putting this up to a 10. And that is awful for the Muna player because now they're losing both sides. So that's probably going to be it. Their last thing they can do. They got a Spindle Harvesters. They'll play this common Sneezer Shroom for 2. That's going to raise their stat up by just a single 1. They could have played it to either side, but it actually doesn't matter. They probably would just scoop at this point. It does become anchored. Just for fun, we'll see the other last card in their hand, the Spindle Harvesters, which just has 1 forest, but it's anchored and just costs the 1. And with this Tasia and Nura ability, that 1 cost card could be 2/1/1 stats that last for 2 days. So not awful. Kind of bad, but not awful. Kind of awful. Not always. But that'll be their action. The Lyra player has no more mana. They could use the Nevenka and Blotch ability. Didn't even get a chance to use an Asmodeus. But it's no need because during the Dusk phase, they get to advance both their hero and their companion. And because they've met in the middle, they will win the game. Of course, there's a lot of stuff that would clear out after that in the night phase going into the next day, but there's no next day because the day's over. Now, just as a contingency case, if both players had somehow advanced at the same time, which is sometimes possible, not with the terrain that we were on, because we were both sides were kind of equidistant on locations that required a single terrain type. But when there's more than one terrain type, more than one player can win. For example, if this were like this, the Muna player would want to win water here and forest here, whereas Lyra could win with water or mountain here and forest or mountain here, and everybody could win. And you could actually end up with a situation where something like that happened. That would be a tie, and you play extra days in which you don't have one side or the other. All characters are committed to one big side, and whoever wins the most terrain types, whether that be 1 or 2 or all 3, in that day is the winner. If it's a tie again, like if neither player won any terrain or if each player won 1, then you just keep doing that until somebody eventually wins more terrain types than the other player as the tiebreaker. But that didn't happen here. We managed to get the victory with Lyra. I think definitely lucky. Well, we got to roll twice because of the Lyra Bastion, and got that anchor on the Trickster with all the boosts on it after hitting a 6 on the all-in. Pretty good. So yeah, Lyra is the dice rolling color. If you don't want to roll dice, don't play Lyra. If you don't want to roll, if you don't want your opponent to get lucky and win lucky rolls to beat you, then don't play against Lyra. Not that it's necessarily up to you. But for me, the dice rolling's fun. I like a little bit of chance on top of whatever cards you draw. There's a lot of strategy. What do you play? When do you want to let things go to reserve? Do you anchor things? Which side do you want to commit to? I do think there's a weakness in that, just tracking all the different terrain types, which ones matter at any given time. The dice definitely helped though. That was pretty useful, but just kind of adding up all the scores and being like, okay, well, which one actually matters on this side and which one matters on this side and which one do I have and which one matters for you? It's kind of a complex algorithm to be going on all the time. And then the minor quibble, other than that, would be the positions of these and being able to tell what card is being flipped up if you don't use my house roll and randomly determine each time. So other than that, my main concern is just I don't need another TCG to spend money on, but I'm really interested in the unique cards, and the digital collection thing is pretty, I don't know that I'm like totally on board, but it's at least interesting, and I like to see how it's received. So check out the campaign, again, link in the description. They'll either be launching soon during their campaign, or if you're watching sometime later, you will be able to see how the campaign did and maybe go to their website, pick up some product, or your local game store. I don't know. At this point, I'm just rambling. I hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and bye.